Welcome to the Bookish Spell, your cozy corner for all things bookish. I'm Angie, your host, and each week I'll be diving into the magical world of books, sharing reviews, author interviews, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so grab a cup of coffee and get ready to turn the page with me. All right. Well, hello, James. Welcome to the Bookish Spell Podcast. I'm really excited to finally meet you. I know we've been meaning to do this for a while now. I'm glad you're finally on.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So today you want to talk about The Melody of the Shattered Gold. This is not your first book, was it?
No, this is my sixth.
Yeah, I thought I remember looking up other books. Nice. So this is your sixth book out. Do you have anything that you want to add or let the viewers know about your book?
So, yeah, of course. So The Melody of Shattered Gold, I actually have it right here because it just came in the mail today.
Love it.
The Melody of Shattered Gold is a prequel to my one of my previous published books, which I also have, the Ballad of Johnny Carlo.
Oh.
So in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, it tells about a so I'll plug both of them here.
Yeah.
Double whammy. So the Ballad of Johnny Carlo tells about Johnny Carlo, who's a hitman for the Argento crime family in New York City. He ends up leaving the mafia because they're getting too ruthless, runs down to New Orleans where he meets a homicide detective named Leisha that he falls in love with, and they end up battling the mafia. What's mentioned in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, a recurring mention, is that they had gone to war with another crime family called the Oro family about 7 years prior to the events of the story. So that's where The Melody of Shattered Gold sets in. That is my prequel book to the Ballad of Johnny Carlo. It's an extension of the universe. And so one of the main differences is that it doesn't, while the Ballad of Johnny Carlo centers around the Argento crime family as more of like an antagonistic faction, in this one, it actually centers around the Oro crime family as the protagonists. The two main characters are Don Emilio Oro. Emilio is the head of the Oro crime family. His two brothers, Roberto is his underboss, and then Giuseppe is his consigliere. Roberto's oldest son, Louis, who's the other protagonist in the book, he's a soldier in the family. He is the one that they're grooming to one day head the family because he's very smart. He just has to get ruthless. He's very young but promising. And but during this time, the Oro family finds himself battling this Russian mafia group that's looking to exterminate them. And then they eventually go to war with the Argento crime family as well. So for people who've read the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, they'll know that this was going to happen. So it's an inevitability.
I'm gonna have to check that one out because I love the Shadow of the Melody Gold. It was I loved Emilio. It was my favorite character in the book.
Mine too.
I loved it.
I really liked Emilio because he is. I mean, you see so many different sides of him. You see, right in the beginning, you see that he's very tough, but you can also see that he's still a likable person. He has a close family around him that he sees as his responsibility to keep everybody close. He's got a wife that he loves very much, who's not really a part of his criminal enterprises, but they love each other nonetheless. He is, you watch him as he comes into conflict with various members of his family, but it's all love. Brothers fight, family members fight sometimes. He's a great leader. He's definitely a good balance between his brothers, and you see that he's human. He makes mistakes throughout the book. He's not like this he's not perfect at what he does. You can see his faults, but you can really see that he is just human, I guess.
Yeah, that definitely shines through in his character. One of my questions was going to be to you, which you might have already answered it, was what initially sparked this book?
And was there a specific moment of inspiration?
Yes. So when I finished the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, I had seen so many different characters that I really liked and I wanted to expand on. Some of them major characters and some of them minor characters. Emilio is in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo. He is a minor supporting character.
I love it.
And I don't know. I liked creating his character. I thought he was fun, and I really wanted to take the challenge of taking who was a minor character and giving him his own story. And I've been aching to make another book in the Johnny Carlo universe. I had made a short story, which is part of my Life's Dark Corners anthology that's also available on Amazon.
Okay.
Third whammy, triple whammy. And and I wanted to create this like mafia war story. In Ballad of Johnny Carlo, the mafia is very present. In this book, they are the dominating force. And I wanted to also paint Johnny Carlo in a different picture, make a younger version of him. This is when he's not quite the famed surgeon on the street. He's very good friends with Vincent. You see them turn on each other in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo. He meets Aurora. So yeah, this was another opportunity to take what was already an established character and create a different side of him. A little younger, a little less mature, making more mistakes. So he was a lot of fun, I'd say.
Love it. That's really interesting. I'm definitely going to check the other books out because The Melody of the Shattered Gold was my first like mafia book. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I generally read, the girly stuff, fantasy. But it was so good. I really enjoyed this book.
Thank you. Without giving anything away, what did you think of the ending?
It was pretty good. I don't know how else to explain that without giving it away. I am going to have my review up for it on my social media. But it was good. Like reading this book kind of kept me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I'll say it that way.
It was actually one of the few golden rules that I had. A certain fates of certain characters I already knew. So, I like obviously, as I mentioned, like Emilio is in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, so clearly he doesn't die. Johnny Carlo himself doesn't die, of course, because there's a whole other book about him. So there's a few, it's like, and I'm not really giving anything away, so.
No, I know. It definitely had me on the edge of my seat. I feel like there's a few parts in the book where I was just like covering my mouth. It was good. I enjoyed it. It opened up a whole new genre for me to look into. I was surprised how much I enjoyed reading a mafia.
Well, I'm glad to be that person for you to help open that door.
Yeah, it was wonderful. My next question to you is, do you have any like set of writing like routines or a ritual that you do when you do start to write?
I like to, well, my writing routine has changed. Usually I would write first thing in the morning. I now prefer to write in the midday if I get the chance to. Preferably with like video games help. I like to take breaks while I'm writing. Excuse me. I like to take breaks while I'm writing because it's really hard to stay focused, and I feel like I get a little tired because my brain starts to want to wander. So I'll let it wander for a little while, and then I'll get back into the writing, and that's what helps me keep going. Coffee helps as well. Coffee is my best friend.
That was also one of my questions later on, is if you're a coffee or tea drinker.
Oh, coffee. I mean,
definitely.
Geez. That's my blood type is coffee.
Oh yeah. So that's actually pretty interesting. You feel like when you're doing or writing something, you tend to take a break when you need to focus on something else. That way, when you could dive back in, you kind of creativity starts to flow.
Well, it helps because I think a big part of it is that I'm a pantser.
Mm.
So I don't plan my writing.
Nice.
Like I said, aside from a few golden rules that I may have established for myself, um, I don't really, I don't really know where the book is going to end up.
Nice.
Sometimes I don't even know which character is going to be in there.
Wow.
Sometimes I create new characters on the fly. So as I'm writing, I'm continuously making up the story as I go along. So I
All right,
do
well,
need, so I do need some breaks to kind of let my brain work. Like, okay, what are going to be the next 200 words? What's going to be the beginning of the next scene? What's the good sequence for these
mhm.
characters? So yeah, I do need breaks in between.
I mean, that is good. That kind of leads back to, the old saying, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So I feel like taking those breaks, even for a long distance, helps you not to get, for one, bored, overwhelmed, stressed. And then it kind of makes it a little difficult to think, when you're under a lot of pressure. So that is good advice for some viewers to listen to. I do want to ask about your character development because they're so unique. Do you have like a approach to when you develop a character, or that just kind of comes to you while you're writing? Is that right?
I like my characters to have third dimensional qualities.
Mhm.
So there's something about them, even if they're like a good person or an evil person, there's something about them that makes them relatable on some level.
Yeah, I
I'd
was gonna
say
say
probably
they're
my
relatable.
I'd say probably my most chaotic evil character in the Johnny Carlo universe would be his best friend Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
But Vincent has, he has some loyalties. He's loyal to Johnny, and he respects Johnny's more moral code of like not hurting innocent people and things like that. And while Vincent doesn't really care about hurting innocent people, in fact, he may have some enjoyment out of doing what he does. He's still very loyal to Johnny. You see that connection with them, at least until it's severed in the Battle of Johnny Carlo. But then he still maintains loyalties with certain people, with Aurora, with Dominic, the head of the Argento family. Then you'll have other characters like Lewis, who is more of the, I mean, he's a gangster, so technically he's a bad guy, but he's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the protagonist, the heroic villain, or the villain, or the villainous hero of the story. You
Mm-hmm.
see his, you see that he is generally a good, he tries to be a good person. He is very loyal to his family, loves his family. He's good. He's a good brother. He's a good son. He has a lot of promise, but you see a lot of his mistakes, as you've probably, there was a certain scene, how do I put it, where he jumped the gun
Yeah.
and somebody else paid the price, and
Mm-hmm.
you see that, you're like, wow, like, you don't see the protagonist character of a story, even stories like this, make that kind of mistake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And that's
I wanted to put that in there to make it more realistic, to say he does do bad things. Even his
mm-hmm.
father, him and his father really gets on him about that.
Mm-hmm.
I love his father, Roberto. He's another favorite character of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Roberto's has a very violent past. Very, he was known as like the executioner for the family,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't want his son to be like that. Like, he knows he has to, but
Mm-hmm.
he knows his son has to make his bones and shed blood for the family, but he doesn't want his son to cross into that threshold.
Mm-hmm. And I feel
And
like that's one thing I loved about reading The Melody of the Shattered Gold, is that they were super relatable, despite them being in the mafia. That's something you don't see every day. It's just their personalities, underneath that. You've done a really good job creating those characters where you can feel their emotions and be like, well, even though I'm not in the mafia, I can relate to how that person's feeling and the decisions they have to make. So you did a really good
yeah,
job developing characters.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Did you
Um,
have any least favorite characters? I wanted to ask
I don't think so. I feel like I
you.
enjoyed them all. I forget the lady's name. There was more in there. earlier parts of the book, she was like the stepmom.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Gosh, what's her name? It's not Faye. It's Maria.
Yeah, she kind of like was a little off-putting for me, but I mean, it wasn't that bad. It just like, girl, what is that? What is your deal?
Yeah.
Stop being so creepy.
Yeah.
But it definitely added a unique twist to this story. I don't know. I actually enjoyed all of them. I just feel like she was just like my least favorite. I mean, it's not essentially because she did anything
She's one of
like,
mine too.
yeah. But yeah, I actually genuinely liked it, all of the characters. I was like pleasantly surprised how interested I was reading this. So it was really good. I do want to ask, when did you write your first book?
I wrote my first book, Ice Rising, in I started writing the book in 2018, and I published it sometime around 20. I finished it around 2019. It took me about a year to write. I spent another year trying to publish it traditionally, and then I gave that up after about another year, and I published it in March of 2021.
Okay, not too long. Yeah, it's pretty good. I was just talking with another author earlier. She's an indie author as well, talking about how I noticed that I enjoy reading indie author books way more than the traditional published books. The stories are just so much more interesting, and they're unique is probably the best way. So if you're doing good, being your own publisher, I feel like you are able to stay true to who you are, because like with the traditional publishing, you got to write it a certain way.
Yes.
And I always just feel like don't get me wrong, there's plenty of traditionally published books that I love, but I just find myself really enjoying the indie authors so much more.
I think you get the more raw version of their work.
Yes. Yeah, it truly is unique. Because how like publishing traditionally published books, it's all, they're most of them, especially like I read a lot of fantasy, so they're like always the same type of book. Yeah. It just the characters are a bit different. But no, like indie authors, they're super unique, and they are like really could tell it's like an author writing about what they truly love.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How did you come about being an author? Was this something that you always wanted to do?
No, I'm a late bloomer, actually. Okay, so yes and no. That I've always liked to read, and I remember when I was a teenager, there was a time where I started to write a book, and then like about 2-3 weeks later, I said, "All right, I'm not interested anymore. I'm just gonna go ahead and stop."
Right.
And well, so fast forward like 10 years later or so, and I'm working at my day job. I am married. I have my son was born. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to kind of plateau with the job that I'm at some point. It's a fine job, pays the bill, takes care of everybody, but I'm going to plateau. I'm going to get bored. So I need to, what's something I can do to kind of improve myself? What's something new I can learn language, study a recipe, maybe I could write a book. And so I started writing a book, and I remembered when I quit the last time. So I said, okay, this time I'm not going to quit. This time I'm really going to finish this and add, author to my repertoire, to my identity.
Nice.
So as I was writing the book that would become Ice Rising, it was supposed to be a prison thriller, but it changed, and I'm like halfway through the book. The character's nowhere near going to prison. So I said, okay, this is going to be into a series. And then I had other ideas like the Ballad of Johnny Carlo that popped up, and I kind of looked at what I had there, and I said, wow, like this is really something. I think I really have a talent here, which is something I never knew I had. And so it just kind of, there was like this mental shift, and I said, okay, I'm going to become an author now, and I'm going to keep writing.
Beautiful.
And that's what became my career.
Mm. So are all of your books intertwined, like in the same universe?
No. So my first book, Ice Rising, which I've also written 2 sequels on, Ice
Okay.
Box and Ice Rain. That's a different universe. And then there is the Johnny Carlo universe, which Johnny Carlo, Melody of Shattered Gold, and Lifestar Corners are all a part of. Lifestar Corners is a little more separate because it's 5 different individual stories about different people across the country, not related to each other. But one of the stories is a origin story for a couple other characters in the Ballad of Johnny Carlo. And
Mhm.
then the 7th book that I've just finished the manuscript for,
Mhm.
there is no mention of Ballad of Johnny Carlo or anything like that in it, so it may be its own separate universe. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I wouldn't mind, not creating 3 different universes. I think that's pretty cool. And I can
I
kind
can.
of visit each one of them, and they're all different because the ice series is more dark, noir. You watch the character really devolve into this more corrupt and violent individual. Then you have the Ballad of Johnny Carlo universe, which is
Mhm.
it's pretty dark, but it's a little bit more well-rounded in that there's comedy and there's it follows different characters and there's so
Mhm.
much different expansion on there. It can really jump into different atmospheres. And then this third universe is probably my most I may be jumping the gun on this one, but I actually don't have a permanent title for it yet, but it's more of a dark romance thriller, and the violence is the least. There's the least violence in this book, but it's the most unsettling violence.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Is that going to be out soon or?
no. I'm still toying with the idea of uh, tweaking it a little bit more and then sending it out because I hadn't planned on finishing the book yet. I accidentally finished it.
Oh, nice.
I had added I had deleted the last 6,000 words of the story, and then I looked at where it ended, and I said, "You know what? That's the end."
Good. Oh wow, I love that.
So
Wow. I hope to
I'm
be able to do
total
that.
pantser.
Nice. Do you have any what's the biggest challenges you face while being an author?
I'm sorry.
What's the biggest challenges you face while being an author?
Um, Definitely getting my work out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are so many authors out there, and now that self-published authors, there's millions of them. And I've met a lot of different indie authors, some great, some not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge is separating yourself from the rest and also breaking the mold because different genres have certain molds, certain cliches about them.
Mm-hmm.
Mafia, for example, follows more of a dark romance
Mm-hmm.
path, whereas in I haven't really read a whole lot of those types of books, but it's like this young 20-something-year-old mafia boss who falls in love with somebody, and so he's like the dark gangster type, and then this person's like the innocent person, and what have you. Mine is more of just mafia thriller, not so much romance, as you've read the book,
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to kind of break the mold with certain genres.
That's good. That is good. And I definitely hope to see more of your work because you're definitely on the unique side when it comes to your writing skills. Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Can you walk us through your revision process? Do you enjoy revising?
No.
Do you do it all on your own? No. And do you do it all
Can't
on
stand
your...
it.
Yeah. That's what I hear.
Well, it's very necessary, but it is it mentally kills me because like I am going over the book like with a fine-tooth comb. My editor will make changes, not major ones, just grammar, whatnot. And
Yeah.
usually when he hands me the the binder that is my printed out book with all the different red marks in it, and I'm just you open one page and there's like, oh, okay, add a comma, okay, do, all right, cool, next page, oh, the whole thing's in red. And it's like, okay, let's go ahead and go that and change all this now. And
So you have to be the one to make all the edits?
so he'll mark everything. Like he'll go through like with a fine-tooth comb and look at all the grammar and the spelling, make sure the story makes sense, and then he'll write notes down, and then I'll make the changes.
Wow, I imagine that being pretty hard. I feel like, especially like, okay, you've written the story, you lived through it, now you want to move on to the next, and now it's like you got to do it over and over again.
This last one went through 4 rounds of editing,
wow.
And it's a 600-page book.
Yeah.
So.
All right, and can we expect to see any of your books in stores, or it's just mainly on Amazon?
So there are certain books that I've donated copies to.
Nice.
One not too far from me, which I actually went in there the other day, and they had my books on their shelf that was labeled, local authors. And I thought that was amazing. But yeah, like certain stores that I'll donate copies to. It's a little difficult being a self-published author, getting your work out there, especially because the only way the only way that Barnes and Noble can really get your book, I think, is buying it wholesale and then selling it for retail. And in my case, they would, they have to make a profit. So if they're buying the retail price, God knows what they can charge on the shelf. So whatever I donate to, Amazon's my bookstore.
Well, I mean, literally the entire world shops on Amazon. So if you're going to have a book somewhere, that would be the best place to have it for sale, especially when Amazon was originally designed to sell books.
It's funny. I get a lot of questions about like how the printing process works, and I say, "What do you mean?" It says, "So do you print out the books?" I'm like, "Oh, if I was the one printing out the books, I don't think I would sell it on paperback."
Does Amazon do it for you?
Yes, they
Really?
Well, I don't know how they do it. All I know is that I can order my books just like anything else. Like, if you were to go on and order like the next James Patterson book, you put in your information, and then they send the book out to you in about a couple days or so. And same thing with my books.
I did not know that's how it went.
I'm glad that's how it went. I would hate to have to print out the books myself.
Wow. And so like Amazon just probably takes a cut from that.
Yeah, they take 40%.
Oh, it's not too bad. Especially the minimum amount of work that you have to do.
Yep. They take 40% for paperback and 30% for Kindle.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Is any of your books on Kindle Unlimited?
All my books are on Kindle Unlimited.
Nice. All right. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I go all out.
Good. All right. How do you handle the business side of being an author? Which you kind of just talked about that.
So basically everything falls on me. Aside from, my editor and my my cover designer, I pretty much do, and whoever Amazon has print out the books, I pretty much do like all the marketing, all the writing. That's all me. And so I'm creating the product, I'm marketing it, I'm selling it. And there's a million ways that I market. I do podcasts like this. I'm very active on social media. I do TikToks. I go to in-person book signings. I have little business cards that I love to pass out everywhere. I wish I brought one with me. That would have been awesome. And I reach out to a lot of different influencers and whatnot, people who love to read and say, hey, you want to check this out and see if you want to share it with people. So Yeah, I stay very active in the marketing aspect. There's a lot I learned with self-publishing. That was one of the first lessons I learned, and one of the hardest was that the book's not going to sell itself.
You have to put all that, yeah. Well, I mean, with social media, that's like the number one market today. And, lucky for us, you have it in the palm of your hands, so that's great. I feel like social media itself just made being an indie author not easier, but maybe a one step closer to being super successful with your books. So.
I mean, fun fact, all of my work I do on my phone, including my writing.
How do you do that? Just like on your notes. Do you do speech to that?
From my phone to this book.
That is amazing. So no laptop, no nothing.
Nope.
Use your phone.
Yep. Use my phone.
Okay. We're going to have to highlight this section right now because that is something that I feel is going to be very inspiring for a lot of inspiring writers. Being an inspiring writer myself, that is interesting to hear because I think about those things all the time.
Yeah.
I think about like, okay, I want to write, I have this idea in my head since I was, young. Let me start typing it out. Then it's like, I am not used to typing anymore with today's technology. I just want to press this button and I'm going to speak it.
Yes.
So I thought about doing that. I just didn't know if I don't know what writers do.
I think it helps with availability. I don't have to be at home in the office. Everybody's asleep kind of thing. I can write as needed.
Wow. So you just do it like on your notes or what do you write it on?
The Pages app.
Oh, yeah.
On iPhone. I have an iPhone, so I just use the Pages app. I just jumped on it one day. I said, let me just go ahead and start writing. I was like, oh, I like this. This is so easy. And been doing it that way ever since. Never changed.
The speech to text to make writing faster, or do you just type it all out?
Type it all out.
Wow. Well, that's pretty interesting because you could literally just, idea pops in your head. You could start, adding to your book, waiting in line somewhere. Wow. Learn something
that
new
helps.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden get 70 words down while I'm writing or while I'm waiting for something or if we're going somewhere, my wife's driving, I'll just kind of let me go ahead and get a couple hundred words down and okay, we're at Texas Roadhouse, let's go eat.
Nice.
And then I'll put it away.
So I actually have a question that's not even on my list. It kind of came to mind. When you're writing a book, especially when it's a big one, as big as yours, do you ever forget what you wrote and then write something that doesn't match the story?
Yes. Or things that kind of focus on the continuity that affect it. Say for example, I kill off a character and then I go back to Bella Johnny Carl and say, oh wait, this person's alive and well. That I can't do that, so I gotta bring them back from the dead. Or continuity is the big issue, especially for a pantser. Just kind of writing on the fly, you tend to forget some of the details. I'm struggling with that one right now with the new book I'm writing. Is kind of keeping it all chronologically correct. Making sure that everybody hasn't all of a sudden aged 20 years in a 5-year period. I do have to go back and reread and say, okay, what was this person's name again? Actually in a book in the Melody Shattered Gold, I had written 2 characters with the same first name, and one of them died early on in the book. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and change one of their names because that's going to be very confusing. Didn't that person just die in chapter 5? What are they doing now?
Do you have any tips on how to stay organized within that?
Oh, I'm the worst one to ask for that. I would say have copies of your previous, especially if you're writing a series, have copies of your previously published works nearby, just for reference.
Yeah.
Okay, what was his name? It says okay, his right hand man. Okay, his trusty right hand man. Oh, he died. Okay, so not that one. Different one.
That is funny. I don't know. I just kind of always thought about that. Visualizing myself writing just because I also read multiple books in the past of like examples. One book I read, a girl was like, she made her like super young in the beginning of the book. I want to say like 14. But then like you could tell in the book, and this was a traditional author. This was not like an indie author. So she had somebody that should have been on top of that. It's like at the beginning of the book, she was super young, but I guess she went down the path of more romance and made her jump from like 14 to, I think it was like 18 or 21. Like I had to like go back, like, am I like missing something? So I feel like they missed like a pretty big thing in the book. And then so a lot of people end up complaining about it, but I don't know if they ever fixed that.
No, I've seen that before too. And that's like, you know, to me that's a huge that would be a huge problem in my book, because I love continuity. I love stories. I love stories that progress, and just, you know, if something is like a huge step back that leaves me questioning, well, hold on, what about so and so?
I know.
Like, I hate in shows when they change the actors of the same character. Like, hold on, who's that guy now? And it's incredibly distracting. You can only imagine if they you know, if they made one character, he's the guy that did this, that, and a third, and then all of a sudden they credit those feats to somebody else and say, well, hold on, well, I'm confused. I would hate to confuse my readers with details like that.
Yeah, I feel like that makes me a little bit insecure when it comes to like trying to write a book myself. And maybe I just overthink all that. But those are things that I think about when it comes to like actually sitting down to finally write something. Maybe one day I'll get to it. I don't know.
You know, they say that writer's block is not really, it's not that you don't know what to write, it's that you're overthinking what you're writing.
You're like the third person now who told me that. Because I spend way too much time thinking like, well, no one's gonna want to read it. Delete. So I
always say when you're starting a story, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. You just have to finish it. You can hate it if you want, but I would say finish the story, just get through it, finish it, the end. Give it to somebody that you trust is going to give you a balanced critique about it. So don't send somebody that's going to destroy it. Don't send somebody that's going to sing your praises. Send somebody that's going to be very honest with you about it.
That's some good advice. One day I'll get to that, hopefully. So I do want to ask, as you said earlier that you enjoyed reading, was there a specific book or author that kind of sparked your interest in becoming a writer yourself?
I have different inspirations. Mario Puzo and James Patterson are up there. Yeah. I like James Patterson's thrilling writing. I liked Mario Puzo's books, The Godfather and The Last Don. Those are my two favorites. So that's what kind of helped me explore a more romantic perspective of the mafia. I think like the way that Dominic talks in The Melody of Shattered Gold, you kind of see a little bit of that. I also like I like Stephen King. Not really, I haven't read a whole lot of his books, but the fact that he's a pantser like me is very inspiring.
I did not know that about Stephen King. Wow.
George R.R. Martin too.
Really? That's so interesting. Wow.
In a way, it actually makes more sense to me now that, like that's how they write. Especially with, you'd think with large stories that there's a lot of planning that goes in there. Sometimes it's just the story is just taking a long time to write.
Yeah.
I don't think when Stephen King wrote The Stand, which is 1,000 pages or so, I don't think he planned for it to be that long. But I don't think anybody really sits down and says, "All right, I'm gonna write a 1,000-page book."
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. I had a feeling. I think we do have certain like foretellings. Like I had a feeling that Ballad of Johnny Carlo was going to be a very long book to write, and then I had a feeling that The Melody of Shattered Gold was going to be my longest book that I've written to date. And I mean,
yeah, like 6
here's Ballad of Johnny Carlo, then here's Melody of Shattered Gold.
Yeah, it was a thick book. That's pretty interesting. Have you do you only read like more like thrillers, mafia, or any other genre you're interested
I
in?
read a little bit of everything. I just read a paranormal romance book that was pretty cool. By another indie author. They had actually helped me out with my book, so
Nice.
I bought their book without them knowing, and then I said, "Hey, got your book." And
Aw.
and it was actually a very enjoyable book. Not typically, I actually like a good romance if it's like very well done, like a Pride and Prejudice or Anna Karenina.
Oh yeah.
As long as the story's relatable, and the characters are very three-dimensional. Crime genre, thriller, true crime, those are my favorites. So I'd like to really read a whole different, some fantasy. I like to read business books. I just finished one. I like history, autobiographies.
Yeah.
The only genres I'm not really a fan of are like sci-fi and erotica. I don't know, just never got into those. I'm not gonna knock them because I know there's people that really enjoy those types of books. I have read a couple books that fall into those genres that were actually very enjoyable, but not really something that I really go for.
Yeah. So I have another question for you. I have watched a few writing courses from James Patterson, but I have never read any of his books.
You never read any James Patterson's books?
Oh. Do you have a recommendation?
Oh, I'm the one to go to. I recommend. Oh man, if I had to pick one book of his that you should read, I would pick probably Along Came a Spider.
Along Came a Spider.
And I say Along Came a Spider because what will happen to you, because it happened to me, is that you will have to read the rest of the series. Along Came a Spider is about this detective who's hunting down this the serial killer that kidnapped these two children that came from prosperous families. Wow. The main character, Alex Cross, is amazing. Very relatable, very, very fun character to watch. You really want to see him get the bad guy. The bad guys are just wonderfully despicable people. If you can enjoy somebody for being the evil bastard that they are. I'm sorry, excuse my language.
No, you're fine. This podcast evil is labeled explicit. It's okay.
Yes. The evil person that they are. And so it has that great thing of you have the great hero that everybody likes, like, yeah, get the bad guys, and you have the bad guys where it's like, oh man, I can't wait for this person to get what's coming to them. But before that happens, you're just going to read about all the horrible things they do. And Along Came a Spider was the first one, and I think that was the same book that really got him into the big time. I would also recommend his book, The Midnight Club. That was one of my favorites of his. Really? In a way, it did kind of. I think it was part of the inspiration for the Ballad of Johnny Carlo.
Nice.
Yeah, in The Melody of Shattered Gold, it talks about Dominic, who is trying to kind of unite all these different crime groups. In the Ballad of Johnny Carlo, it's also a recurring theme. Midnight Club has something like that, where it's just like the giant, like, mystical crime syndicate that kind of controls everything. So that fascinated me. I always liked that. I think that was right up my alley as a reader. It kind of had a little something for everything that I was looking for. And so I'd say that was part of my inspiration.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'm going to check out James Patterson's books because I watched a few of his writing courses, and that was what initially kind of sparked me to think about writing again.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his courses. They're very helpful, encouraging too. So I'll get to reading one of his books really soon. I do have another question for you. Have you ever cut a scene or a character that you loved, but you knew it didn't fit in your story?
Not a character, but I have had to cut scenes. The the book I had mentioned that I just finished on accident would be one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that was 6,000 words. I mean that's about a week's worth of writing for me, give or take.
Mhm.
And the fact that I had just had to get rid of all of it was kind of like, it was like,
Hmm.
wow, it's the first time I've ever had to do. I've had to delete some of that caliber, but you know, you really want to do the story justice, and you don't want to just put something that doesn't fit just so you know you could say, okay, I got my word count done for the day.
Right. So
So
that's
it's necessary. It's necessary, and it makes the book better.
Okay. So as far as like your latest book, The Melody of the Shattered Gold, what were the like themes that you were most excited about to explore?
Family.
Yeah.
I guess subconsciously, even though I write to entertain, I subconsciously put some stuff of aspects of my own life into my stories.
Oh,
You know, I would say the Ballad of Johnny Carlo centers a lot around my wife and I, and then the Melody of Shattered Gold centers. The Melody of Shattered Gold, I think doesn't represent my family, but the family struggle that you see in it, where you know this family is going through a lot of problems, but they all want to stay close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We had a situation that affected our family last year that was pretty traumatic. We had to leave our home for about a month and take care of one of my children who had fallen ill.
Oh.
And during that time, just you know, it was just a big thing. It was a big shock for our family, and then you know we got through it. So I was writing I was writing the Melody of Shattered Gold during that time,
Oh.
and so
I
that
hope,
was so I guess that was a big thing for me
I hope your kid's doing
was
better.
family.
Yeah. Is your kid doing better now?
Yes. She's doing much better. Everything's been resolved.
Good.
Doing a lot better now. It really
Cool.
kept us close together, and that's why I liked, you know, like, you know, we all got closer as a result.
Okay, good. I'm glad everything is doing better. Do you have a specific message or takeaway that you hope your readers get from your books?
Mainly, I just want my readers to enjoy the story.
Yeah.
My goal with my writing. I mean, if people take other aspects from the book, and they, you know, I mean, that's the great thing about good books, that you can interpret different things from them.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is that if my book is something that just allows you to escape for a while,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I want to do. I just want my books to be an escape where you can just enter into the world, think about it, retreat to it, just take a break. You know, like I'm a big movie guy. You know, I love books, but I also love a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, one of my favorite things is just going to the movie theater and just just watching a movie, preferably a good one. It's like, it's just a total escape from everything.
Mm-hmm. That was actually going to be one of my questions to you when I get to know the author section, is if you are a big movie or TV person, and
Yep.
if you are, what are your favorite movies or TV shows?
Oh, I love this question. My favorite movies are The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
We'll include the entire trilogy, even part 3.
Nice.
And let's see. I mean, if Casino, Goodfellas, The Irishman, Scarface. Let's throw all those in there.
Mm-hmm.
TV shows, Breaking Bad. I think
No, that's
Boardwalk Empire.
Mhm.
Just name a crime show and let's put that in there and just say yes, I like it. Not Peaky Blinders so much. I tried, but I couldn't. A few others, you know. Game of Thrones. Which somebody said that Melody Shattered Gold reads a lot like Game of Thrones. Just I guess different characters, so many characters, different perspectives, not knowing who's gonna make and who is and whatnot. You know, my wife has a knack for picking out like good shows. Like she'll always, I'll mention something. I'll say, "Hey, why don't we watch this?" She's like, "Okay," and I'll like watch one episode. I'll watch it, and she'll like be on her phone the whole time. Be like, "Okay, this ain't gonna win," and but then she'll pick something, and I'll be kind of the same way where I'm like, "All right, we'll enjoy the show, and I'm just gonna read or I'm gonna look at my phone."
And it catches your attention.
And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, okay, so what's that guy doing? You know, like, he got me into Grey's Anatomy that way. The earlier Grey's Anatomy. Like I'm like, okay, you know what? George is really getting, he's really getting on my nerves and stuff.
Did you watch all of Grey's Anatomy or not yet?
No, we stopped watching it. I think we lost interest after, spoiler alert, after Derek Shepherd died. Then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. After that.
As I have been a diehard Grey's Anatomy fan, I mean, I watch every episode like clockwork. When all the original cast members are essentially died off.
Yeah.
And especially Derek Shepherd, the show turned to crap, to be honest.
Oh, and Alex Karev left. I think that was like the nail in the coffin for me. But that's what I like about like a lot of like good shows and stuff is that, they say that, if you watch TV, you're not going to learn anything, blah, blah, blah. But as somebody who writes stories as a career, it's something you really want to see. Like, okay, what makes a good story? What makes a good character? So it's not just it's not just that you're watching for entertainment. You're also subconsciously studying.
Yeah, I was just having.
Yeah,
I was having the same conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago. I think it was about that same thing. That if you want to be a author or a screenwriter or whatever, you have to shift your perspective that watching this TV show or reading this book is essentially work or study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you'd be surprised what you get inspired with. Like the character of Aurora Argento, who's in Melody Shattered Gold and Battle of Johnny Carlo. Mm-hmm. I look at her and like we just watched Game of Thrones again. And I looked at Cersei Lannister, and I said, I'm seeing some parallels here. I like to think that Aurora is smarter, but that's up to the reader. And I guess Dominic and Tywin would be a good, a good one. Yeah,
that's a good comparison, actually. Oh, that's funny. Did you watch all of Game of Thrones?
I did. I have my favorites and least favorites, new favorites actually, and my wife too. I enjoyed Jorah Mormont a lot more. I think, again, I love watching something that I'll notice again, like Jorah. Okay, everybody, spoiler alert again. When Jorah died, he died protecting Daenerys Targaryen. I thought that was just he died. I think the way he wanted to. If he had to choose, that's exactly I think he lived his life the way he really wanted to. Like he was just so ready, and just he's getting mortally wounded, and he's still standing up until all the zombies are dead, and then he drops, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Like, it was mission accomplished. I can rest now. And then he, and then he died seeing Daenerys as the savior, So, and he got to die in that way. And I think, just I don't know. It's just, and again, I take something like that, and I say, oh, I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I love certain characters like that. I love the ones that are just ready to die. Maybe they're a zealot, maybe they're just running by love. I think Severus Snape from Harry Potter is another character, probably one of the best literary characters ever is Severus Snape. Just that whole story of he has, during the time of Harry Potter, he has no what's the phrase, he has no dog in the show, he has no horse in the race. He just chooses to make his choices because of somebody who he felt he owed, and it just guided his whole life. And I thought that was just, I don't know, it was amazing. The fact that you can hate this character for most of the series, and at the end of the show be like, oh, never mind.
Yes,
never mind. Good on you, mate.
I know. But I guess like those type of characters kind of show you that what I'm trying to say is like he had intentions without like receiving something in return. Like
Yes.
he was doing this just solely to protect Harry Potter or
Yeah.
things like that. And I get it. I love those characters too. They genuinely tend to be like the strongest characters in whatever the movie, TV show, book that
And
someone
they're
did.
the rarest.
Yes, exactly. And it's, I guess the word I'm looking for is they do it out of unconditional love,
Yes.
And those tend to, yes, they are the rarest characters, but they do make up a great story.
Sydney from A Tale of Two Cities was like that too. If you've ever read it, Sydney is a character like that. He's amazing. He's just read the book for him. I mean, Charles Dickens, his writing is a little, there was a time and a place for it.
It's hard to read.
But Sydney is probably his greatest character that he's written.
Really? I spent on my TBR for like years now. My goal is to eventually read like all the classics, but always something else comes more important, I guess.
Yes.
I do want to read all of the classics. I actually was one of the people, I feel like maybe one of the few people who I actually did not like Romeo and Juliet.
I didn't like it either.
I like, watched all of the renditions of it, but I finally read I guess essentially it's a screenplay. I read it and I'm just like, oh God, no.
They're 14 and 16. They would have gotten over it.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Like if you see, I have a review about it on Goodreads, and it was my first brutal review. Like I hated it so bad.
I think I'm sorry. I think The Count of Monte Cristo was probably one of the greatest classics.
Oh really?
Oh, it is so dark. Just in the movies, there's the sword fight between him and Mondego. I don't know if you've ever seen the movies or not.
I don't think so.
There was at least two different versions of the story where he fights Count Mondego, who was one of the antagonists in the book. They have a sword fight near the end of the movie. In the book, there is no sword fight. It's a much darker fate, and it's pretty dark for that time period, especially because stories from the classics are a little more tame. Character deaths and whatnot are not as graphic. Usually there's like a poisoning or a stab or something like that. But what happens to the Mondego character in Count of Monte Cristo, the book, is so dark, and it's like kind of gave me shivers.
Do you think maybe that was a turning point in Shakespeare's career, or I guess it was Romeo and Juliet?
Well, Dumas wrote Count of Monte Cristo, but it was Shakespeare. Well, Shakespeare's different because his stories were a lot more graphic and very dark. I mean, Romeo and Juliet is, at the end of the day, it's, you can say they were destined to die, but it's teen suicide, and that's a dark topic.
That's true. Yeah, it is. That book should be with trigger warnings today.
Yes.
That's funny. All right, I do have another question for you. This one's a little bit non-book related. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Well, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick 3.
That's fine.
A village in Japan. It doesn't have to be specific. Something pretty, because I like I love the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise when he's in that village for a while. London, England, because a large part of me is English, and
nice.
My wife and I had toyed with the idea of one day moving outside the country. I don't think that's what we're gonna do. But London, England would have been my first choice. And I've always wanted to be like, let's go over there and just to see if it's something that we would like. And then Florence, Italy, because I've always wanted to go to Italy. And Florence is just such a beautiful, beautiful place. And Italy was like another fantasy of moving out the country for me.
Yeah, well, I've seen pictures. Looks beautiful, but I've never been. Maybe one day. Okay. And I had another question that wasn't on my list, but now it kind of slipped my mind, and I really want to ask this question. Hopefully, it'll come back to me. So, another question I have for you is: do you have any hidden talents or hobbies outside of writing?
Yes. So I am in. So I'm a gamer. Movies. We know that. I'm actually into martial arts as well. I have a background in karate, which I've taken back up after like a 15-year hiatus. I got back into that, and then I also perform capoeira.
Oh, nice.
Which is like the Afro-Brazilian martial art. If anybody has ever played Tekken, that's Eddie Goro's thing. If anybody has seen the Will Ferrell movie, Get Hard, that's the fight he uses at the end. Yes, I toyed with the idea of getting into it for a long time, and then I watched this movie. Not the movie, but there's this movie called The Protector, which is I believe it was like an Indonesian movie with Tony Jaa. And there's a scene where he fights Lateef Crowder in a bathhouse, and Lateef Crowder is a world-renowned capoeirista. And just that fight, I watched Lateef Crowder and his moves, and I said, "Okay, I'm learning that. That's
that's great.
That's fun, you know." And so I've been practicing that for since December of last year.
Oh, okay, nice.
And we were also, and my wife and I we're on a weight loss journey, and because capoeira has helped me lose quite a substantial amount of weight because that's a lot of cardio, so it helped me.
Okay, good. Well, good luck on your guys' journey.
Thank you.
So you mentioned you're a gamer. Have you ever considered doing that professionally, or
No, I'm not that good. Aww. I play on easy mode.
Oh, what do you play?
Right now I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima.
I don't think I heard of that.
It's a RPG about you're a samurai fighting back the Mongols, and you kind of break the samurai's code because you can like assassinate people and stuff. So, but it's very fun. It's a very beautiful game, and I think that's why I mentioned I want to go to Japan because whoever made the graphics for that game just deserves every good thing that happens to them and more.
Oh, nice! It's that good.
Yes.
Okay, if you had access to a time machine, would you go to the past or the future?
The past.
Right, and why so?
I like to read biographies, and I would want to sit with certain people, just kind of either fly in the room or just guest in the office and just kind of see what they're thinking. I would love to hang out with the presidents during their most critical times of U.S. history. Though like Lincoln or Kennedy or George Washington, George Bush, Barack Obama, all these different people. I would want to sit in the room with them when nobody else is around. Like, let's just say that they would trust me with all their inner feelings and thoughts. I don't know why. Like, after everybody's left the room, and it's just me and them. Me and George Washington, or me and John Adams, and just sitting there and saying, "Okay, so what do you really think? Like, what's going on?" And titans of industry like Rockefeller and Carnegie. I would love to like sit in the office with them again, be like that person that they could like turn to and just say, "Okay, so John, or Andrew, the steel thing, huh? That's man. How do you feel about that?" It's going to be hard, isn't it? And I was like, "Yeah, it is. It's going to be real hard." But don't worry, I know how this ends. It's going to be great.
That's funny. Well, that may be.
I would love to go to John D. Rockefeller's house when he was like a kid, because he grew up poor. His dad was in and out of his life, not a very good role model and stuff. He was a traveling con man. And I'd just like to sit in John's house and say, "John, you might not know this, but one day you're going to be the richest guy in the world. Like, you will be it." So, giving you a heads up. In the world.
Wow, I keep thinking about his Doctor Who. That's funny. Well, that was probably my most.
And giving $100 to Bill Gates when he really needed it would have been great too. Like, hey, Bill, here's
$100. Yeah,
here's $100.
that's funny. All right, now let's talk about music a little bit. Do
Okay.
you have any favorite music, or like a band or an artist that you're currently listening to? Or do
I
you-
listen to everything. Now,
Mhm.
I don't think everything's good, but I have an ear for a little bit of everything.
Nice.
If we were to drive and my phone's on the Bluetooth and it's on shuffle, you don't know what's going to happen play next. You know,
Mix everything.
Eminem, Megadeth, Frank Sinatra, Celine Dion, Rihanna, the Soviet national anthem because I think it's awesome. I don't know why. It's not a political thing. Just I listened to it when I was a teenager. I said that sounds great.
It's funny.
Capoeira music. Yeah, it jumps. You don't know what the Bad Boys theme, the cops and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Halloween soundtrack. You know, all of a sudden we just listened to like Celine Dion's "Oh Holy Night," and now we're listening to the Halloween theme. It's like, hey, I don't, I mean, we can skip it if you want. I know it kind of threw you off, Oh, holy night, do 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 do. Yeah.
That's good. It keeps you on your toes, especially when you're on a long, road trip.
Well, when I get in the mood, then it gets annoying. 'Cause it's like, yeah, rock, yes, ooh, Disturbed and Rammstein, you guys killed it. Okay, next song, and then it's like, Bad Boys, what you gonna say? No, okay, that's a little off.
It's funny.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question for you is: do you enjoy cooking? If so, what's your go-to comfort food?
Nope.
Or what's your favorite dish?
Steak. Especially when my wife makes it. She makes the best steaks.
Oh, that's cute.
Yes. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. My wife loves to cook. I would not be able to feed myself.
Okay, good. You have someone taking care of you. Well, that's good. All right. Are you a part of any fandoms, like whether it's movies, TV shows, sports, or anything?
A few that I could probably get into more, but I just don't have the time to commit. Probably Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings and Star Wars to a lesser amount. There would be aspects about that I could really get into. Like, I really wouldn't care what happened to the Blue Elephant guy from Return of the Jedi, but I would like to explore like the history of the Sith. Like that'd be great. Like the darker aspect, or then like in Lord of the Rings, I would love to like kind of. I don't know, like it'd be a cool place to visit, but and there's a lot of stuff I like about it, but I can't really, but like then there's people that for years study Elvish, and I'm like, okay, I'm not that committed to studying a made up language. Maybe I'll create one day, but I won't study one. But on the flip side, I like to do voices, so it's like a challenge for me. There's a couple voices from Lord of the Rings that I would like to be able to fully replicate, and so I'm weird like that. Like there's some things I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good, and then there's other things where it's like, oh, I'm totally into that weird little part of
That's funny.
the saga.
I actually just did the audiobook of the Lord of the Rings, the first book. It was earlier this year, I believe, because I've never read Lord of the Rings, any of the books. I've never even seen the movies, all for this silly reason. And I think about it all the time, and I feel like, I don't know, stupid, I guess. Whenever Lord of the Rings was popular and big, I was, a smaller kid. I was like, I don't think I was preteen, but I was somewhere around there. And I remember my mom rented, I believe it was the first Lord of the Rings movie. And I remember she rented it, and I remember it's like, okay, it's nighttime. I want to watch this too. So I like pop in the DVD back then. I watch it, and then there was some part, I'm pretty sure it was Gollum, scared the crap out of me, and I turned it off, and I have never turned it back on since then.
Really? Oh man! So
Those
I
things.
watched. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I watched the first one when I was 8, and just that scene when Gandalf, like the ring's on the floor in Bilbo's house, and Gandalf is about to like pick it up, and then there's like a flash of Sauron's eye. I was like, ah! You know, it's like, is this a horror movie? Like that scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, it did for me too. That it's like forever, like a core memory that I'll remember trying to watch Lord of the Rings and getting scared and turning it off and going to sleep.
Yeah, so but now I watch it and I'm like, you know, I love the scene when Frodo puts on the ring and Sauron speaks to him, you know, and it's like that voice I'm trying to replicate because I want to scare the crap out of somebody, you know, like.
I do hope to watch
horse right now, so I can't, but I would just love to do it, just like one time.
That's funny. I do hope to watch the movies, read the books, because I know I'm going to love it. It's like right up my alley.
The movies are better. The movies are better.
Oh, because I mean, I read the first book, and let me tell you, it was the audiobook, and there's a part, I can't remember who was singing, but there's a part in the book where somebody's singing, and like it felt like it was 10 minutes long, and you just hear someone.
The movies are better. I swear to you, this is anathema for a writer to say, but the movies, the Lord of the Rings movies are better than the book.
Really? Well,
I needed those visuals to get through the story.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I mean, listening to the audiobook,
like,
it was hard.
Okay, so the end of Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, there's a big fight in the woods between the band of heroes and these Uruk-hai, these giant orcs and stuff, you know? And then there's a fight between Aragorn and the leader Uruk. And it's a great scene. You watch Boromir just, you know, he's getting shot full of arrows and he's still fighting on, protecting people, just dies great. In the book, it's like they find him around 20 dead orcs and he has arrows in him. It's like, oh, you're dying. What'd we miss? You know, and just things like that. I'm sorry. God bless J.R. Tolkien for creating Lord of the Rings, but just comparatively speaking, it was rather dry, just compared to the movies.
Really? And I guess maybe it's such a complex world. You need to visually see it.
Watch the movies first, fall in love with the movies, and then...
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I would say that. Okay,
I was trying to do it the other way around, but maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, the whole books are always better than the movies things. That's not always true.
Yeah.
World War Z, yes, true. Book is better than the movie.
Really?
Much better. Oh my God. World War Z, the book will give you chills.
Oh wow. Well, I add it to my TV.
Yeah. And then there's others where it's like the book and the movie. Read them both, watch them both, because they pretty much go hand in hand. I say Godfather's like that.
Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, I watched Godfather, but I never read the book.
Yeah, the Godfather. So, what's mentioned in a big thing that they did better with the movie than the book was in the movie with Michael. Michael Corleone is my favorite cinematic character of all time. Mm-hmm. And with Michael Corleone, you watch him transfer. Now, you know he's a Marine. He served in the military, but you don't really know to what extent. Mm-hmm. You know, like, was he just like a base soldier? Did he see combat? We're not really sure. Mm-hmm. And so when he kills Zlatan McCluskey, spoiler, midway through the movie, it's more traumatic. It's just like, oh, wow, this civilian just killed these two people. And then when he comes back as the boss and he's totally different, it hits you heavier. In the book, when they're kind of getting him ready to commit these murders, he said, hey, you know, I was in the war. I killed, you know, Japanese soldiers and stuff. Like, I've done this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it takes away the mystique a little bit. Because it's like, okay, he's killed people before in war, not necessarily murder, as, you know, killing in combat, but it's like, okay, so you know how this gun works then. Okay, well, you know, aim for the head, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that actually made me think about the question I want to ask you is if you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be and why? And it could be multiple.
Oh, it'd be a few. Alex Cross, Joe Ledger from the Joe Ledger series by Jonathan Mayberry, another amazing thriller. Mr. Church from same series. Father Nicodemus from the same series, even though he's the bad guy. So I think him and Church would fight. But it'd be a great dinner. And Michael and Vito Corleone. This would be a large dinner. I'm sorry. This is like
you go like Boca's or something, then get a big table.
Yeah, and then probably like, Sauron and Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, just, opposite sides of the table.
Nice. I think that would be.
Go on. I can go on with this list. I would add more.
That's funny. All right, my friend. I know it took a bit of your time, but I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Is if you could have any superpower, what would it be, and how would you use it?
Oh man. Telekinesis and world domination.
Good ones.
That I honestly be like, okay, I can move stuff into my mind. It is now time to take over the world.
Perfect.
Not like through military conquest, but just like, hey, hey, I'll go fight this war by myself. Like, just me. Just don't send a military. Just me. I'll do it for like $10 billion. And then I'll just like amass riches and start investing in economies and stuff. And yeah, so not like, come my faithful, let's take over the world. More of like, all right.
Become a superhero, yeah.
Well, I would, yeah. Yeah. And take over the world.
Nice.
Like, okay,
right.
this is the next logical step.
All right, James. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. Do you have any last minute tips you want to add for your reader?
For the readers, explore different genres because you never know what you're going to enjoy. I mean, everything we've mentioned, you wouldn't think I enjoy a good romance, but I mean, if it's a very well done romance, I mean, Anna Karenina made me cry tears of joy.
Oh, really?
Like there's a scene in there where I was like, hold on, I need to punch a wall. I need to go punch a wall now. And but yeah, you never know what's going to tickle your fancy unless you try.
Good advice, definitely, because I didn't know I was gonna like mafia type books until I read one. So definitely good advice. James, well, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I enjoyed our conversation and definitely hope to see some more books from you soon.
Yes, definitely. I'll always be ready.
Yes. All right, James. I'll talk to you again hopefully soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Bookish Spell. I hope you enjoyed our magical bookish journey together. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to leave a review. It really helps. I'll be back next Wednesday with more enchanting stories and author insights. Until next time, keep the magic alive in your hearts and on your bookshelves.